Hello! Welcome back to Hold On I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood, and you are listening to our preview of UFC 305, which is headlined by Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya for the middleweight title of the world, with a co-main event of Kai Kara-France versus Steve Erceg in the flyweight division. Oh yeah, I'm excited by that bad boy. As per usual, I'm joined by my regular co-host Tom Ballum. Now, Tom, a quick question here. How bad of a look is that we did our last episode, which was a preview saying Leon's going to mash Bilal Muhammad, it's going to be a massacre what he's going to do to him, and then we didn't record a review.
Shameless. It's absolutely shameless, Joe. We just completely ducked the return on that one. What does one say? I stand by what I said. But I don't know if I could pick Leon in a rematch. This is the sport. Kudos to Bilal.
Yeah, unbelievable. What a story for him to have done that.
I cannot believe he is the champion. It's like when Strickland became middleweight champ. I just couldn't believe that.
What's worse?
Ooh, I mean, given haven't we overlooked Bilal even more? Like, he gets out wrestled by Colby or Usman. That's what everybody says. He gets out struck by.
I don't think he does.
No, well, obviously not anymore.
I think he would mash Covington. Like that. Yeah. That's pretty obvious. And I think Usman, is done anyway. But yeah, I mean, I do worry for Bilal when he fights Shavkat. Like what that's going to look like, because that could be one-way traffic in pretty hideous circumstances. But Bilal, you've earned my respect. You earned my respect before, but doubly so now. Particularly if you then go on to fight Shavkat and beat him. But listeners, never mind that monstrosity. Let's talk about this monstrosity. UFC 305. Me and Tom are going to do a preview going from the top down to the bottom of the main card. Starting with the main event. And we're going to make picks for each fight. And if we get the fighter correct, we get 1 point. And if we get the method correct as well, 2 points. 10 points on offer. I'm the reigning champion after a draw in the last card. A draw is a draw. A draw is a retention, Tom. I know you don't like that, but that's the case. Speaking of a fight that will not end in a draw, Dricus du Plessis will be defending his middleweight title against Israel Adesanya in Australia. Is it in Perth, this card? I can't remember.
It is, Joe, yeah.
It's in Perth. Now, I remember when this was being built up before, when Izzy was the champion, Izzy screaming, I manifested this, him getting in the cage, talking some smack to Dricus, my African brother, you're no brother of mine. I was just like, man, this is going to get edgy. And I've seen nothing so far. This fight has no heat whatsoever. It's pretty sourceless, and it makes me think that the UFC missed the opportunity with this fight to be mega huge, because feels like it's been kind of like weirdly dumped. Do you know what I mean? With it happening out in Australia.
I do know what you mean, Joe. I have the same feeling, because it's a huge fight. Is he coming back? And we'll get into the narrative behind it shortly. Yeah. So I tend to agree with you, but let me just add this for the listeners out there. If you want some sauce on this fight, Israel Adesanya is providing that on his social media with some very interesting promotion. Did you see this, Joe? I
did, yeah. Do you want to describe it?
I feel like it probably stuck with you more than me, but Adesanya captioned a photo of both gentlemen's parts and explained that he was the real African and tried to demonstrate that in the photo. It's getting weird out there, Joe.
I just wish it was weirder. It's like, the thing with like Dricus is that he's weird, undoubtedly weird. I mean, most MMA fighters are weird, but there's a sense of a normal person in there a little bit. Not in the sense of that he's a good person or like a whatever, but I can see like, oh, he's like a jock and, he's whatever. He's just that sort of guy. Izzy is so beyond whatever he was before that he's gone into this cartoon character version of himself. I think Pereira broke him even in the win that Adesanya had, where Adesanya had like imagined this win over Pereira for so many years, beats him, thinks I finally vanquished this guy, but Pereira, because he was a long-time kickboxing champion and had a long kickboxing career. You get knocked out in kickboxing, you come back 2 months later and just brush it off. And that's what Pereira did, and just moved on from this guy. And it's like, this guy doesn't really matter to me. I train with him tomorrow. And I think that kind of messed with Adesanya a little bit going into that Strickland fight. Strickland wins, slightly ruins this fight. Dricus wins over Strickland, gets it back on track. But it felt weird, Dricus winning it from Strickland instead of Adesanya for me, in retrospect.
Definitely, of course. Adesanya has been the kind of long-time champion outside of the blip in the last round against Pereira. You take that round away. Adesanya has been completely dominant, and we've really struggled to find contenders. You were often lamenting how stagnant middleweight was, and here we are with this quite confused title picture. But I think there is that bit of confusion with Adesanya coming back, not against Strickland but against Dricus, and also I feel like there's not been much of a post-mortem on his loss to Sean Strickland and what actually happened out there. People will say he's a bit flat. There wasn't any obvious injuries, but there are a couple of things bothering him.
He got rocked in the first round. Why do people forget that? He got rocked in the first round.
Yep.
And then because Strickland is so twitchy with his defense, he was catching kicks, and I think it threw Adesanya's rhythm off, because there was points where he would throw a body kick, and because Strickland reaches and grabs at everything, grabbed the leg and sort of had Adesanya in a difficult position, let go of the leg, had him up against the cage, and threw a couple shots at him. And it's Adesanya is all this layering effect, and if you interrupt him in that process, I think he struggles then to build a cohesive attack from there.
But isn't it the case then that he was a bit of almost a glass cannon? If all it took to knock him off his stride was getting hurt early, and not we've seen fighters get hurt much worse than he was. You're right, he was dropped, but we've seen people take some. But maybe
the surprise of it though.
Yeah,
he wasn't expecting it. Maybe that's the thing that threw him off. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I hear you, Joe. It makes you question the whole run a little bit more. If somebody did get that takedown early, if that's all it takes to knock him off course, is you're gonna get hit by Strickland. We know we're always saying he's not the biggest hitter, and he definitely doesn't overcommit to his punches, especially early. Especially after Pereira, he's very cautious. And
that's very true. That's very, very true.
So. I guess that's, for me, what's missing is confronting what happened out there, because we were equal in our conviction that Adesanya would take apart Strickland, as we were last time out with Leon and the aforementioned fight with Bilal. So not much of a post-mortem on that for me, which is strange. Makes it doubly strange to come back and fight.
What's your reading of it then?
Why that fight happened?
Yeah, why that result happened in the way that
Strickland is just way better than you want to give him credit for. He's just way better than that. He overwhelmed Izzy with his pressure. He broke Izzy, basically. The counters weren't there for him, and Izzy couldn't hit him with anything hard enough to get Strickland off him, and that upset him completely. We're used to seeing Adesanya on the front foot, showing his full arsenal, or the ring craft to lead the bull of Paulo Costa around the ring, and just style on him, and getting marched down like that, rather than blitzed, just constantly marched down.
Do you know what makes me push back actually on the idea I put out there initially of, he was rocked in the first round and maybe that surprised him, is that he came back and won the second round of that fight, and then Strickland then proceeded to win 3, 4, and 5. And I think that
stretching the distance in the rounds as they went on.
Yeah.
If there was a sixth round, Strickland's going to win it.
Yeah, I think actually Strickland in that fight demonstrated a big issue for Adesanya. For Strickland, that may be a reason that he could be successful against Dricus, is that he doesn't actually throw many combinations. It's a lot of single shots. He throws a jab. He does the sticky jab, as it's called, where throws a jab, keeps it in your face, keeps the range, and then launches the right hand behind it. lots of leg kicks, obviously. But again, if you're fighting a guy who twitches at everything, and if you're not like a monster puncher like Pereira, then I think someone like Strickland isn't going to be too bothered by you. Whereas against Dricus, who's a weird, janky fighter, who throws weird combos and will just drag you down to the mat, someone like Strickland will struggle a bit more than against a maybe more technically accomplished kickboxer. And, there's no doubt about it, Adesanya is a more technically accomplished kickboxer than Sean Strickland in an MMA sense. But it was just that approach, overly technical, single shot, 2-shot combos, doesn't work against a guy like that. Does it work against a guy like Dricus du Plessis? I wonder, because maybe if he throws the 2-shot combo and then Dricus is like charging in, the fact that he's not throwing that third shot means that maybe Adesanya can then control the distance, maybe move away, maybe not get overwhelmed by him. Like, there's a part of me that thinks that actually Dricus could be in for a bit of a beatdown in this one. The fact he doesn't check any leg kicks, I think, could be a potential issue as well. I don't know. I mean, what's your sort of feeling on the fight? Because for me, the narrative is so muddied that that's not even really much of a thing. But the actual fight itself, is there like anything from that Strickland fight that's standing out for you that could be a positive for Adesanya? Because I think that's the fight we have to look at more than even the Pereira rematch. It's that Strickland one. Is what is it that he had in that fight that could do anything to Dricus?
Well, I mean, I think the blueprint for success, if you're in the Dricus camp, will of course to be on the front foot and keep constant pressure on Izzy.
Defo.
And stay inside his range. Now the thing that it's very hard to get out of my mind, you've already referenced it, is the blitz. And what happened to Robert Whittaker last time?
Yeah.
Him and not last time, sorry, in the first fight with Adesanya when they fought in Australia, when obviously Rob was coming in with a trademark blitz of his own, famous for them, and Adesanya was lying in wait, caught him with that beautiful counter, not just one counter but two, slipping. Whittaker coming in,
did it in the first and second round, yeah.
Left hand, wasn't it? Like first he hit him with the right, turned out the way, and they came up with the left, kind of almost like an uppercut. Am I remembering that right?
It was kind of like he was almost like square to Whittaker as he like caught him with the right hand. Like he threw the left to sort of like knock him into the path of the right, and when he hit him with the right, he was almost like squared up to him. He was almost like punching through him for the finish, and that was the combo he caught him with at the end of the first round as well, and. It was like super slick. The thing is that I think Dricus's blitzes aren't as like he doesn't bounce in like how Rob does. It's a lot more linear.
He's an absolute freight train coming through, Joe. Like comedically so. He most infamously in his earlier UFC fights against Prat Tavares or Darren Till
or Trevin Giles.
Or Trevin Giles, yeah.
Do you remember that one? That was yeah.
Well, like he steps through. He steps through the shot to then load up onto the other foot and swing. With his other hand, he goes from southpaw to orthodox, and he just charges across the cage doing it. Like an action man style. You can't help. You've got to imagine that Izzy is, he's going to love that. You see that coming all day long. You've got to think that.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that he's probably looked at that Strickland fight, has seen flaws in Strickland that du Plessis maybe highlighted for him for their potential rematch, and then seen the monster flaws that were there for du Plessis. The thing is
du Plessis was ready to come out and take those risks against Strickland, though, and this is the thing: Adesanya wasn't.
Yeah.
He just wasn't. He was found out, and he didn't want to get hurt. He couldn't open up because Strickland kept landing on him. And du Plessis took those big shots from Strickland, obviously got pretty bloodied up. I know you maybe didn't think that much of the fight, but I enjoyed it a lot, and I thought it was It
was an enjoyable fight.
A well-fought contest, and that's because du Plessis, made it so by wading through the fire. The Sean Strickland fire, which is one of the strangest fires there is to wade through.
Yeah.
But he made it dirty.
But maybe he waded into that, though, because he knew Strickland didn't have the punching power to put him off, whereas Adesanya might do. I mean, You never know. I mean, if you're charging in at that sort of guy, but I just don't envision him getting caught by the same sort of combination that caught Whittaker. Not to say that I think that Whittaker's some sort of scrub. I think you saw that in the rematch with Adesanya where Whittaker adapted really well. Some people think that he won that fight. I'm very firmly in the camp of him not winning that fight, and I love Rob. But, no, hold on, that's a phone call. I just think that how does a guy like Dricus think that charging at Adesanya is going to work out for him? Because that is his main game plan through most of these fights.
Well, I think Dricus has not eliminated that from his game, but he's picking his blitzes a little bit more. He still has this very interesting style where, he's kind of like taking a break for a little bit and just trading with you, but in a very lethargic way, and then he kind of like revs himself up and comes running. Yeah. But it's less extreme than it was earlier on in his UFC career. What I wanted to pick up on there, Joe, is like, does Dricus have the confidence to do that against Israel, and how does he feel coming into this fight? I think he's got to feel pretty damn good because his physicality has thus far been unmatched. And he's got to look at Adesanya and he's got to think, I can just blow him away. He's fragile. He doesn't have the power to match mine. If I can wrap him up in clinches, that moves the fight onto my terms. And if I can just dirty him, get after him, make it not a clinic, it's not a kickboxing match. No. Then I can absolutely manhandle Adesanya. And if what you're saying is true, Joe, that Adesanya was rocked and that put him off his game for the whole fight against Sean, oh boy, you're in for a tough night against Dricus du Plessis.
I don't think that was the case. I think that's kind of I think it's a bit unfair on Adesanya. Yes, again, that thing of saying that he won the second round of that fight. I think that's a pretty fair assessment of it. I wonder if with Dricus actually, do you remember the Darren Till fight when he basically pulled Till on top of him? He basically pulled guard in the most modern sense that you can. He did do that. It was bizarre to watch, but I wonder if he's going to do something like that again, where gets into clinches and creates like leg entanglements, maybe, or maybe if he could go for like pulling guard, or even just like dragging him down to the mat, like in the way that he did to Strickland. He does just pull people down because he has this like physicality to him that goes later into fights as well. I mean, I watched the fight with Strickland once, and I had him winning the fight, and I think it was a close fight. I'm not going to pretend like he swept him or anything, but it was close. I just wonder if he's going to be able to get that sort of physicality going against Adesanya, because Adesanya's got the longer arms. He'll be able to get the leverage and get his arms inside, create the reach from there, but maybe Dricus doesn't even care about that. He'll just like pull you down any way he can. It makes me think I'd love to see a 1-round fight between him and Hamzat. Just like, lads, you got 5 minutes, go. Like, what are you going to do?
Paulo Costa also, of course.
Of course. Yeah, the real Paulo Costa, not the one that turned up against Strickland.
Yeah. But that's just the Sean Strickland effect, Joe. I know you hate it, but the man is a problem in this division. And what I wanted to ask on that note, actually, is as Dricus du Plessis, like coming off that close win against Strickland, which fight would he favour himself more in? Do you think he feels that, okay, Adesanya is the easier fight for me, or do you think he would prefer to go against Strickland again? I'm not talking in terms of building a legacy or, putting his marker out there. I'm just thinking about which is he more confident that he could win. Yeah, which is more winnable for him.
I think he thinks the Strickland one's the most winnable. I think.
I'm not convinced. I think he would favour himself here.
He favours himself in both of them, obviously.
Sure, but they all have to generate that confidence. But sometimes you can see behind it. You can see the cold reality that that must eat away at them sometime. During the day, there is that moment where it's like, bloody hell, I'm about to go and fight. This guy, and he's got these strengths, and they counteract.
I could get messed up here. Yeah,
and like, oh, look what this guy is doing to everyone else. You can't tell me you go into a fight with Hamzat of a few years ago and think, oh yeah, this this will be fine. I'll just out wrestle him. No worries. I'm Gilbert Burns.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But maybe he thinks though that with like Adesanya, like the physicality of him, like quite unique. You know, he's got a very odd frame to him for middleweight. He's very lean. He's very got long reach as well. That Dricus knows that staying on the outside is not an option for him, and then coming inside blitzing could be hideous for him. I think that's kind of what this fight ends up devolving down to, is how did both guys react to Dricus's blitz? Like, is Dricus able to... Dricus, I think, has to accept that the first 2 shots of his blitz are there to set up the third and fourth, which are going to be the damaging ones. I think if he charges forward with the 1-2, just the switching stances he charges through, that 1-2 has to get Adesanya moving, and then he has to make a decision from there of am I going to go for a takedown? Am I going to throw a kick? Am I going to keep going with the hands? It has to be... That's what it has to set up for me. Because otherwise, I think, if he blitzes forward and thinking that a 1-2 shot combo is enough, I think he's going to get badly beaten up here. And the leg kicks as well could be a bit of an issue. If he can't check the leg kicks, it's going to be bad for him. It's going to be bad for him. The guys that have done the best against him, Jan Blachowicz, Sean Strickland, Pereira in the first fight, where, Pereira was down and he needed to knock him out, but he still was able to draw him in because he checked the leg kicks. He'd sort of had to reel him in, and then he had to chase him down. Blachowicz got him into the hands, and it got the grappling from there. Obviously, there was more to it than just the checking leg kicks. And obviously, Strickland totally threw him off his game by grabbing at every single kick he threw. I don't know. I've not seen any evidence of Duplessis in the UFC doing that sort of checking. But then he's not really fought anyone who's a big leg kick. I mean, maybe Darren Till, maybe. All of Strickland's kicks are up through the middle.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, I interrupted.
Because he's marching. He's usually on the front foot, and he kind of uses it to set up his offense.
Yeah.
The Darren Till fight is just fascinating. Going into that fight, we both picked Darren Till. I think I'm right in saying, even though Till was a bit jittery.
Oh, did we? And we were so wrapped up in nationalistic pride, weren't we? My God.
Yeah, but it was a close fight. Of course, it should have been stopped probably early on. If Till didn't take that damage early, he probably beats Duplessis, and we're just looking at a completely different world right now. In hindsight, in hindsight, Till's losses are not that bad. Strange to say. I do think Plessis is a better fighter now, though, also.
Than what he was before?
Yeah, I think he's tightened his game up.
Yeah.
I do. I find this a very interesting fight, very hard to call, because you can't help but be shaken by what you saw from Adesanya last time out.
If he comes back, he'll be a 3-time middleweight champion. That's pretty major accomplishment to be able to come back that many times and reclaim the title. Again, this is something we haven't really spoken about, but he's been away for a while now. There's talk of retirement. There's talk of him taking less fights. That he said, what does he want? He wants he wants this one. He wants the Strickland one, and he wants the Hamzat one. If that can be lined up, which is interesting. No talk of going up to light heavy and having the trilogy with Pereira. Funny that, isn't it?
Settled in his mind, right?
Yeah, I lost 3-1, so I've won it. Yeah. Next goal wins. You just lost 3-1. No, you're not. That's not next goal wins. No, it's an odd state of his career, isn't it? Because Duplessis feels, even in defeat, I think you'd feel like he's on the ascension here. I think he's going to be a long-term contender at middleweight. He'll only ever be a win or two away from a title shot, and I think he beats most of the middleweight division in its current state. Even in defeat here, the mental side of Adesanya has not been explored yet, and I wonder if he is potentially. I mean, if he loses, is this it? Could this be it? And he's like, well, I'm just going to finish this off here. I don't know.
It's an open question. It puts him in very difficult territory. There's 2 losses you got to get back, and to lose this fight, right? On paper, Adesanya beats Duplessis.
Sure.
Like, Adesanya's peak is higher than Dricus du Plessis' peak.
Yeah. You mean in terms of their career so far? Or their ability?
Their ability.
Okay. Yes.
I mean, you talk about the matchups in middleweight. Most of those matchups, like, I'm not convinced that du Plessis has an easy time against Vettori. I'm not convinced about that.
But I think du Plessis sets himself in a way where he doesn't have an easy time with anyone. Just because of how he is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he always will make it more of a fight than it should be. I mean, he said in the Darren Till fight that he took it off in the second round, and that's why Till came back there. So, yeah, whatever. I think you were a bit gassed out after having that huge burst of energy.
Are you confident he beats Cannonier?
Du Plessis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, Joe. My instinct there is that Cannonier knocks him out.
Really?
I'm talking about a knockout. I know Cannonier's not been able to get his offense off, but I just think du Plessis obliges him and falls right into his hands.
Wait, you're seeing the Cannonier knockout of Brunson, or just like him mashing his head into the canvas and just I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, Cannonier is one of those that you can't really fuck around with in close range.
No, yeah, exactly. If you trade with him, if you let him get his offense off, then he's going to hurt you big time. And both of those fights, we know how they go for Izzy because he's won them, and he's won them, at a bit of a canter, really. Being cautious, not finished with great style, great aplomb, but he's better than these guys. And du Plessis, I'm just not sure. So that's why I say, Adesanya is the better fighter. But is he going to win on Saturday night, Joe?
Yes, Israel Adesanya by decision for me. I'm sorry, man. I think there's...
You have to.
He's a weird guy. He's built up this narrative in his head. He thinks this is part of some bigger scheme or story that he's a part of. And I think it's... I don't know. Like, I think this is a really big moment for him, and he knows it. And that's kind of when he's at his best, where it's like the spotlight's on you. Can you deliver? Of like this huge pressure moment, the Anderson Silva fight where it's like, you're going to take the mantle from this guy? You're going to show that you are? Okay, cool. The Gastelum fight, the Whittaker fight, the first one, the Paulo Costa fight. Those are huge moments where he had to deliver, and then he did. And then he fought Rob again, and it didn't really matter too much. And then he fought Marvin Vettori again. It didn't really matter too much. And then he fought Cannonier. It didn't really matter too much. And then he fought Strickland. It doesn't really matter too much. And then he got caught out because of it. This du Plessis one really matters. And I think that psychological edge will ignite something in Adesanya.
It's career defining. You lose to Strickland and then to du Plessis, you've lost your place amongst the top tiers, which he was very much on course.
Of all times. And, and in the way that, like, for example, Jose Aldo, who loses to Conor, he lost to Yan, he lost to Merab, but he's still top of the table, all-time great contender material. Like,
it did help that run he had at bantamweight as an old man, and the last performance against Jonathan Martinez. That does help to remember his featherweight run, And I don't expect we're going to get something similar from Adesanya. A loss to du Plessis. Where do you go from there? Truly. Do you shave off all your hair and drop down to welterweight? I suspect not. Like the King of Rio was able to do at bantamweight.
No.
I have picked Israel to win the fight. All right, I have to. Logic must prevail, and I've picked him by decision. I think it's a tough call. I say it with no conviction at all. I think the odd makers have got this just right. They've edged it to Adesanya, and that's all anyone can do. Yeah.
This will be 3 rounds to 2 either way. Like, someone's winning this 48-47, and I don't know who.
All right, let me jump on that.
Yeah.
If it's that fight, I think du Plessis will win the fight.
Oh, wait! You think Adesanya has to just style and profile?
Yeah, exactly. Control the range, hurt him, punish him for coming in.
Can you imagine if Adesanya's like 2 rounds up after 2, and he's just like an absolute machine? What du Plessis is going to have to do in that fight to drag it back to his lip?
Yeah,
it's going to be a nasty, nasty fight.
It sounds
that'd
like
be interesting to see. I'd be interested to see if Duplessis can do that, by the way, because we've not really seen him be like down on the cards and have to come back. Like, he's kind of been a bit of a front runner and had guys try and catch back up with him and then him kicking on again. So that would be interesting to see as a challenge for him. Right, co-main event, flyweight division. Now, sans Mohamed Makayev, but we have Kai Kara-France versus Steve Erceg. I like this as a matchup here. This is a cracking little fight here. I think, potential title contender matchup here, get you into a nice number one contenders fight to then face off against Pantoja maybe later in the year. We don't know what the lineage is of that division at the moment. Kara-France, Pantoja, you wouldn't have a bit of that?
Yeah, no, but I'm wincing because Pantoja bested Erceg so recently. But in the absence, yes, it was, but not to the point where I want to see Erceg get it again. It was already a generous shot. In the absence of more, stronger contenders, Almir Albazi putting a big statement out, for example, or if we can find some excuse to give it to Manel Cap, then that's what I would rather. Just any excuse to get him in there fighting.
Why is it not Cap versus Kara-France on this card? Like, this just feels so odd, the matchmaking.
Well, of course, Cap's just been fighting against Makayev. I mean,
but why was that fight booked instead of the Kara-France one?
Yeah, well, there was that beef, and I think they were hoping Manel Cap would put a stop to Makayev. And to be honest, Joe,
he almost did.
Yeah, it was a moral victory. I felt like for Cap in that fight. Or could have been given the second and third round.
Anyway, let's go back to Kara-France versus Erceg here. This is actually kind of, I think, a flyweight version of Duplessis versus Adesanya here, of Kara-France trying to push the action and Erceg fighting on the back foot here and trying to catch some counters. I think that's basically going to be the fight here. I think Erceg, being the bigger man, the more physical man, will be, or I say as the bigger man in terms of like reach and sort of his frame, will play into this. I think, Kara-France having to punch upwards, though, will also help him out, because he had that against Cody Garbrandt. Remember that knockout finish he had of him? Yeah, it could have something like that, similar again. Again, can Kara-France throw the 3-shot combo where the first 2 are there just to set up the third? Are we going to have that from Kara-France? Because that's what I think it has to take. Erceg will happily wait, circle, set his feet, and then oblige with either an uppercut through the middle. I think he's got fantastic MMA boxing as well, and that neat and tidiness might be the undoing of Kara-France here, because if Kara-France is throwing loopy kickboxing shots and Erceg being able to fire it straight down the middle, I think Kara-France could be in for a bit of trouble with this one.
A couple of questions for you, Joe.
Shoot.
Looking at the way you've broken down the fight there, which fighter would you say has landed more strikes in the UFC? Which fighter has the better strike differential?
I would guess Kara-France, just because he puts more out there.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I can
Erceg's
understand.
more of a one-puncher, though, but he's fought lower opposition other than Pantoja.
So Erceg has absorbed significantly more strikes than Kai Kara-France.
I'm guessing the Pantoja fight was the thing that skews that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other question, the other question would be on the. Sorry, I did have another one that I wanted to ask you about. I mean, of course, you know that Erceg has been more aggressive in pursuing takedowns. That's something that we could look at here in this fight.
Kara-France is a scrambly boy, though.
He is, yeah. With an 88% takedown defense rate to Steve Erceg's 61%. So it's interesting in that Kara-France, of course, you referenced the Cody Garbrandt fight. He had that moment. He was the boy for that brief moment.
Brilliant.
Really, really a lot of fun at that time. Of course, then he followed up the Garbrandt fight, winning against all odds against Askarov, who seemed to be this smothering wrestler who just no one was going to have an answer for. But Kai was just too fast, and when he landed, he really hurt Askarov. And of course, going into the Moreno fight, he was then my favourite to win that fight, and I was very sad to see him get knocked out.
The body shot.
Now, the skids. He's on the skids now because, of course, he's fought Alpazi and gone down in a split decision. I don't know how much.
I had him winning that fight. I had him winning it.
Right.
It was a close fight, though.
Mm. So you're saying he's still right there? Then he hasn't necessarily hit his ceiling.
He needs a win to get himself back into some sort of contention. Because otherwise, it's like, what would that be? What, 4 in a row losing? Or 3 in a row?
He did. Yeah, it would be the 2 losses, and the one before that was when he beat Askarov back in March of 2022. So it would be 3 in a row if he were to lose on Saturday night.
Damn. Yeah, he really can't afford to have that in a division that thin as well. Like, those losses really stand out then, because it's like, how are you going to get those wins back up the division? You know, you're going to fight that far down, and you're fighting unranked guys, and then what if you lose to that guy? Like, you could put yourself he's in a bit of a tricky spot here. Whereas Erceg is, he had that kind of a free punt at Pantoja, and now he's got a free shot getting like a ranking, because Kara France is ranked higher than him, isn't he? So
yeah, it's rank 4 versus rank 7. I've got to imagine you favour Erceg in this fight as the kind of cleaner striker.
Definitely.
It seems like you're seeing it as a kind of like Kara France has got that puncher's chance. And if you're a flyweight relying on a puncher's chance. Well, okay, but that's his lead threat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to have to be... I just don't know if he's going to be able to have the output to really put Erceg on the back foot. I mean, I'm going to go with an Erceg decision win. I think Erceg's the cleaner puncher, and I think he's going to find a lot of holes with Kara France, who does like a big winging shot.
Of course, I would imagine Erceg's going to favour himself in those scrambles against Kara France.
After fighting Pantoja?
Yeah, but I felt like that was kind of one of the defining things between the two of them, was that Pantoja was that bit ahead. But having rolled with Pantoja and escaped Pantoja, over the course of that fight, then he's really going to favour himself against Kara France, because these are 2 different fighters we're talking about here. In terms of the tier, where you stand in the sport, Pantoja is the best of the best.
Yeah.
The bar brawling back snatcher, as Jack Slack accurately named him. Joe, going off of that performance of Erceg, and as you say, very, very crisp striker, I don't see many outs for Kara France.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like Kara France, I really enjoyed his run because it was like in spite of the odds.
Yeah.
And that's what's really fun. Like, that's where I was like, oh my god, he's actually besting Askarov. Like, oh my god, he can actually do this.
Yeah.
I don't think he can do it against Steve Erceg. I've given Erceg a decision win.
Good shout. Now, the most important fight of the night. Mateusz Gamrot is back, and he's facing Dan Hooker. Please, Dan. Please, just end this fool, for the love of God. You can't, Tom. I know you're weird with Gamrot. You always... them previews, you're like, but Gamrot, Joe, the wrestling. And then we watch him, and you're like, oh my God, Gamrot. Ugh. Remember that RDA fight? Come on, son. Like, we're not having this again.
Yeah,
you can't fall for Gamrot again, can you?
Yeah, that was absolutely dire, and Gamrot is not fun. All right.
Do you know what was weird about that fight? It's like it was a level of bad that I actually didn't even comprehend. I was like, how can it be this bad? It wasn't even like he took him down that much.
No, he fought. He lowered his level to match RDA. RDA, of course, the old statesman of the sport, and yeah, it was a bit of a stinker. However, Mateusz Gamrot has a win over Arman Sarukian. He went the whole way with him. We love the fight.
Bro, he didn't win that fight.
You could have given it. Yeah, you could give it to Sarukian, but he went the distance, and there was a lot of fun scrambles in there.
Amazing fight, yeah.
Yeah, of course, he's also beat Carlos Diego Ferreira when that counted for something, and he's beat Fiziev. So your man has got some scalps on his record, to put it mildly.
Fiziev? I don't remember this fight.
He fought Fiziev in September of 2023. It's the fight before the Dos Anjos fight. You're so blind with hate, Joe.
I've got no memory of that fight whatsoever.
You just blocked it out.
Has Fiziev fought since the Gaethje fight? Oh my god, he has. I've got no memory of this.
It's because you're just blind with hate.
He got injured in the main event, didn't he? That was it. Fiziev was injured in the main event. Sorry, my mistake.
Also known as a TKO win for Gamrot.
What? No. Oh god.
Look, Joe, I have had to come to acknowledge that Gamrot is not fun, but he does present a problem. However, Hooker is the opposite in that he's lots of fun, but he doesn't really present much of a problem if you know what you're doing. So it's a question of
what do you need to do?
Well, you have to maintain a consistent gas tank and never believe that Hooker is out of the fight.
Yes.
Just acknowledge until
he's actually out of it, like Arnold Allen and Makhachev did.
If you have killed him, then the fight is over. Unless he is dead, you could get yourself into danger if you get over exuberant. And he won that fight against Jalen Turner in just comical fashion.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Fantastic. What a fight. What a fight. And he's been there so many times. Obviously took Poirier to the wire. I mean, we saw those clips coming up in the run-up to Poirier's last fight. And, Dan put him just right on the edge. The beating.
They both went through the meat grinder in that one. That was...
it was a merciful end to the fight when it came, but the cost in terms of the lifespan of Dan Hooker.
He's only really fighting once a year at the moment, Hooker. This is a real shame.
Well,
they're a bit more...
for humanitarian reasons. Because
is that why they gave him Gamrot?
Punishment. Yeah, that's why they gave him Gamrot. Exactly. Someone who won't do any damage to him, and you might get another fight out of him soon. Can Hooker win it? How does he win it, Joe?
Knees to the body.
Yeah. So we're talking about setting up that knee, threatening Gamrot if Gamrot's going to shoot.
I honestly think knees at the centre, using the hands to get Gamrot's hands moving upwards, so then you can knee to the body. Any clinch that you get into, you have to immediately start throwing elbows. And yeah, if you can maintain some distance. Like I was thinking about when Dariush fought Gamrot and he just cracked him with a right hand. And he sent him flying, and obviously Gamrot got straight back up and tried to go for the single leg. But I can see Hooker hitting him with something like that. I can see Hooker getting the damage in the fight, but not the control, which may be the issue.
Well, this is crucial in my view, and that's how Dariush set up with the big right hand, and that was with immaculate takedown defense.
Yes,
and basically, this is where I worry for Dan, because Dan, we saw the fight against Makhachev. We know how it goes.
Yeah, but Gamrot's not a big lightweight.
No,
fought a featherweight before. And Makhachev is a bull, and he just bull rushed Hooker. I think in a way that I don't think Gamrot will. I mean, I think maybe he'll try it, but I don't know, man. I don't. Do you think he can sub Hooker? I just don't see it.
But that's because you see Tony Ferguson-esque resilience from Dan Hooker on the mat. Break his arm and he fights on. That's why you don't see a sub, because Dan won't tap.
No, he won't tap. I mean, he even complained about the Makhachev one because he didn't actually tap, but it was a verbal tap of him screaming. That's why he lost. That's why the verbal tap.
Wow.
Yeah. So if he didn't scream, he would have just snapped the arm off.
In Dan's favour here, he does like to work. Not just up top, but he does like to punish with low kicks as well. Of course, you want to see that against Makhachev. Whenever Makhachev is kind of posting against and setting. Gamrot. Yeah, against Gamrot. Yeah, I don't want to see him fight Makhachev under any circumstances. Let's be clear. He will work the legs, and they will be there to be worked. So Hooker can get the damage off. He's going to have to go through the mill. I suppose the thing that I really worry for Hooker is, can he scramble with Gamrot? Won't Gamrot just maintain a dominant position? once they're on the mat or once they're up against the cage.
I don't know. I just feel like Hooker's got a physicality to him that he might be able to like quash that. I mean, Gamrot's just going to keep going and going and going with the takedowns. Yeah. But if you are able to shake him off, get damaging knees in there, and then he's still going for takedowns, but not really getting anything off, how would you score that round? I mean, it's a hypothetical idea, but for me, I would probably favour the guy who's actually done some damage. I don't know. So it's a weird one.
I would as well. We definitely prefer. That's how we like to favour it in the scores. Like if you get damage off and then you get taken down, and the other guy maintains a dominant position but doesn't threaten with submissions, doesn't do any damage to you, you win the round.
Yeah.
Especially if the takedown happens early and then you get back up. It's a bit different if you finish the round on your back, obviously.
Yeah.
Then
if someone gets like 2 minutes of control time, like at the end of a round. Compared to like 2 minutes at the beginning, you get up, start kneeing him to the gut and start taking it to him.
Then it's an obvious round for you, isn't it? But if you finish the round on your back, then it's more questionable. My worry, as I say, for Dan is perhaps he does have that physicality. I just can't help but see Gamrot wearing him down, and when he takes him down, Dan not being able to escape. I think Gamrot maintains the dominant position.
I'm not sure.
I think once that takedown happens, the round has gone to Gamrot, and that is why I've picked Gamrot to win. I'm sorry, Joe. Decision.
Okay, that's fine. I've picked Dan Hooker by decision. I think he's going to absolutely batter him. Please, Dan. Please do it. I'd love it. Yeah, I'd love it. Please. But Tom's desperate here, so he has to. Oh my good lord! Tai Tuivasa versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Do we have to really talk about this? What are you going for here? Should we just make a pick and move on? This is like a women's bantamweight fight to me. Like this is. Oh, is he going to drink from the shoe? Oh, brilliant! Can't wait for that.
Legend,
yeah, mate. Top ledge. Is there anything to say about this? They both stink, so. It's true though, Tom. Come on.
I mean, all right, Rozenstruik. He's only getting beat by the best in the sport.
Yeah.
Tuivasa could get beat by anybody at any moment.
Oh God.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm going with Tai Tuivasa knockout win. Swanging and banging.
I think Rozenstruik sees him coming. Surely it's a knockout. One of these boys is going down.
If this doesn't end in a knockout, I'll be so angry. Like either way, please, Jairzinho, just knock him out. Tai, please knock him out. Right, a bit of a weird one to end on this card. The Leech is back. Li Jingliang, Ledge. He's back. He's facing Carlos Prates. Both me and you went, who? Apparently he's fought in the UFC
twice.
Grand total of twice. But my God, I'm just looking at his record here. Going back to 2021. Ground and pound finish round 1. Strikes finish round 2. Finished with a jab in round 1. Head kick ground and pound round 1. Head kick round 1. Straight left round 2. And then the UFC straight left round 2. Round 1. Knee to the body. I'm hyped to see this dude. I've not seen him yet, so just going off of that, I'm excited. But can I look past my boy the Leech? Damn right I can. I'm sorry, man, Leech. It's over for you. You had a nice run. It was slightly ruined for you by Nate Diaz not making weight when you
his last fight. His last fight.
Is that one?
Leech hasn't been in there since that debacle.
Was that the D-Rod?
Yeah, when he lost to D-Rod, ended up fighting at 180, didn't they?
It was 180 because Kevin Holland was supposed to fight him at 180 at catchweight. God, they were so lucky they had that as a catchweight fight. Because otherwise, the card would have been just totally all over the place, wouldn't it? God, that was his last fight.
Yeah,
man. Oh God, I'm not too sure.
And you've done him like this. Turned your back on him.
I love the Leech, but I don't know, man. I'm looking at that record. Nah, I've got to pick the Leech, haven't I? I have to. This is Baz. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Leech. I'll go with the Leech decision. I've not seen this guy. I can't turn my back on the Leech.
I just want to draw our listeners' attention to what's happened here. We are sworn to a certain set of rules in our game. Yeah. And Joe has just acknowledged how dirty, filthy, stinking, cheating.
What?
monstrous character that he, Joe. Like, you know, we've had emails coming in. How is Joe winning this? How? How is it happening? Well, now you know. This is what the length he's prepared to go to.
What you want? I wrote the leech down. It's
supposed to be written down, Joe.
I have written the leech down. Hold on, I'll send you the screenshot now. Hold on.
I can hear tapping, and fortunately, it's not the more disturbing kind of tapping that Joe gets up to in that room.
Doesn't make any sense. What on earth are you on about?
Joe, I have picked Pratters. All right, I've been seduced by that record.
You saw that finish streak and you're like, have me some of that, son.
Yeah, I'm in. I've gone for a knockout.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
And I want to blame. Look, Joe.
I sent you my pics, by the way. Look, what have I written there?
What's that a picture of?
Oh my god! Just have a look at the pics, for fuck's sake.
Nothing's showing up here. So look, underhanded.
I sent you on WhatsApp.
Disgraceful behaviour. Look, Joe, I knew something was up, and now my suspicions have been confirmed.
What do you mean something's up?
Joe, you've been disqualified, mate. I am the champ.
What?
Yeah.
What's this logic?
Look, I want to just take a moment here and say the reason we haven't seen these fights, we haven't seen Pratters as dedicated fans of the sport, is because of where they've taken place. All right, and I don't mean the geography of the place. I mean the events that they've been put on. Because Pratters is turning up on fight nights, and Joe and I have retired from watching that nonsense. We're done. No more Apex, no more nonsense. And Pratters fought 2 times this year, both in our Baron streak since we boycotted the Apex. So,
I've got to say, one of them was not on the Apex. It was in Louisville, Kentucky, in the KFC Yum Center. Kanania versus Imavov. Let's have a look at the other one. Trevin Giles. Apex, son. Hermanson versus Pfeiffer. Oof.
Yeah.
Anyway, Leach by decision.
Well, any prelims you want to guide the listeners' attention to?
No, there isn't. But there is something else I want to talk about quickly, Tom. If you will oblige me just for a couple minutes. Big combat event happening this weekend. In fact, 2 that are competing with each other. I don't know if you've been following this. ADCC is back this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. What was the biggest Nogi Jiu-Jitsu grappling tournament in the world, where the best Nogi Jiu-Jitsu grapplers turn up. Well, taking place on Friday and Saturday is the CJI, the Craig Jones Invitational, which is now going to be the big grappling event of the weekend. This is potentially major here, Tom, because Craig Jones found out, he knew how much the winner of ADCC gets on the men's side. $10,000 for a torn ACL, potentially. That is ludicrous. Craig Jones was talking to a friend, a very wealthy friend, and his friend said, what if I give you $3 million, can you put on an event? And lo and behold, everyone gets $10,000 and $10,001 for turning up. And if you win your division, you get $1 million on the line, which has now become, the most prestigious grappling tournament in the world, because, as we all know, the money's the most important thing here, listeners. So, pretty major here. He's also talked about maybe ADCC paying people under the table to turn up and having these sort of backroom deals, so that maybe the money isn't shared equally. And, he's been frustrated, and now he's taking it out on them by doing his own tournament. Very exciting. Some super fights happening as well on the Saturday night. I'm sure you've just seen this, Tom. Have you been following this at all?
I'm a little bit abreast of it because, of course, there's a huge development in the jiu-jitsu world. It's nice to see, somebody upsetting the
status quo, yeah. And someone who, when Dana says, well, why doesn't someone else put on their own MMA promotion? That's what the ADCC guy said. Why don't you do your own tournament? And Craig Jones says, all right, I will. And then he puts on this tournament. The men's is 80 kilos and over, isn't it? Sorry, I've got to try and get the...
under 80 and then over 80. Yeah.
The under 80 division is unbelievable how good that is. You've got the Rotolo brothers there. You've got Joseph Chen, Nicky Ryan, Andrew Tackett. You've got some amazing... Mateus Deniz, some amazing grapplers there in the under 80. The over 80 is a little bit more clear cut about who the potential final is going to be. Probably Nicky Rod in there on one side of it for definite. The other side maybe a little bit murkier. But the under 80 is unbelievable. It's going to be incredible. And you're going to see guys not tapping to submissions. It's going to be crazy. Different rounds set as well. 3 5-minute rounds, and the finals are going to be 5 5-minute rounds. And the venue, instead of having a flat mat, they've got this thing called the alley, which is influenced by the Karate Combat sort of stage with the angled walls, because Craig Jones realised if you have that, it forces engagement. So you can't back off from someone. You can't go out of bounds and have a weird reset. You're stuck in there and you can't get out of it. And I think that is immensely exciting. It's going to be free on YouTube, so you can watch it whenever. I will be watching it Saturday and Sunday morning after the fact. So I'm very excited for that. Super fight on the Saturday night. You got Fionn Davies versus Mackenzie Dern. That's going to be incredible. Formerly the best women's grappler in the world facing the current best women's grappler in the world. And of course, the most exciting part, Craig Jones facing Gabby Garcia in a special one-off super fight. Very exciting. I've seen a couple t-shirts billing it as man versus beast. Obviously, Craig being the man in this situation. So the face-off video he did with Gabby Garcia, without a doubt, the funniest video I've seen this year. Half an hour of those two flirting with Craig flirting and her saying, "I'm going to kill you." So I'm really excited for this. And ADCC, I ain't paying to watch your son. And Craig Jones was right. When they got very popular, they put it behind a paywall straight away. He said they should have left it for free, so it got more eyes on it. That's why he's leaving this for free. Very excited for this. CJI, Friday and Saturday night.
Thanks very much for that, Joe. I will be tuning in after that program.
Are you actually going to tune in?
Yeah, I'll make an effort to definitely at least watch
Craig versus Gabby.
Craig versus Gabby. I see that Craig has posted on his Instagram under a clip of the fight that was announced on Joe Rogan. I assume the fight for equality continues. So,
he has said he's going to because they're going to do entrances and it's only one match at a time. He said that he's going to turn up and he's going to wear jeans and a white vest and he's going to come out with a cigarette and he's just going to put it out on the side before getting in there. So he said that's going to be his look. Very excited to see that. Craig Jones, by the way, a guy who's never won a world title, he's never won an ADCC, and yet is the biggest thing in grappling. So it just goes to show, listeners, winning is for losers. All right. So anyway, I'm hyped for that. I can't wait to talk about that next week. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Let's go through the picks one more time. Starting from the bottom going up. I picked the Leech to beat Prates. Tom went for Prates by KO. Tuivasa versus Rosenstruck. We then split on that. Both going for a knockout. I've gone for Tuivasa. Tom's gone for Rosenstruck. Gamrot Hooker. Again, split on that. I picked Hooker by decision. Tom picked Gamrot by decision. Co-main event, both picked Steve Erceg by decision. Main event, both picked Adesanya over Du Plessis by decision. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody.
And listeners, we'll be back next week. Enjoy the fights. Enjoy the grappling as well. I hope you do engage in that. Anyway, see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.